So first of all, just let me explain to you, we're going to do a little bit of silver cleaner, and basically I'll just explain to you about the items that we use.
Yeah.
First of all, this is Goddard's long-term silver polish, and it's very, very good, and it does have a form of long-term about it, and I should think every butler in the world would use that particular thing. Anyhow, years ago we used to get the self-stone stuff, but it was but it came in a powder form, a pink powder form, and you can see, if I can get some of this out, you can see that it is pink, but it used to be powder, and we used to take the powder out of the tin, and then we used to put some methylated spirits and just mix it up, and from that we were able to then just take a little on our finger and clean the silver. But this day and age this is much better, and I'll just explain to you about the other items that we've got here. These cloths also, as black as they look, they do actually come blue, but it doesn't take very long to make them this colour. Purely and simply, they're called Goddard's long-term silver cloths, and once again they're made by Goddard's, and what they've actually got, they're impregnated with the polish in there, so you don't always have to use the polish, you can actually just use the cloth, and you can actually get a shine on it. And then we have brushes, and most of my brushes are worn out because I've been doing this for 55 years, so you can see a fine example of one of my brushes. But in fact, it's not completely worn out. I use the ends, and I find that quite good for some little bits. So, but there's a decent brush. But they also come in different thicknesses. So you can have a very, very thin one, you know, very much like a radiator brush that you can have down the back of a radiator. Well, you wouldn't know about radiators in Thailand, but we have radiators in England, and we need the brushes to go and clean in. So they're very, very thin, and then they change, and then also you can have a much thicker one, a much wider one, probably about, about 1.5 inches probably wide. And they don't scratch the silver, they're actually really, really fine, but they're called jeweller's brushes. And here we've got some Goddard's Jeweller Care, which is very much like, Goddard's silver dip. It's a self-stone sort of thing, but this is just for dropping a ring or something in. And inside there's just a little basket to drop your ring into, so you can see that there. So you can put your little items in, drop it in, pull it out, and it may be just a silver chain or something like that. And that's quite useful stuff. To be honest, I haven't really seen much of this about over the past few years, so I keep that quite carefully to last, really. Now, to clean silver, I'm dated rather, because I know about cleaning silver since some of the old butlers taught me, and they were butlers who were working in the 20s and 30s. And I always remember in the 60s, one old butler came up to me and he said, "How do you clean your silver, laddie?" And I said, "I always clean it with my fingers." And he said, "Good, because that's the proper way to clean silver. You should always clean it with your fingers, because then you know that you've covered every area with it. If you've got something like this, you'll often find that just inside there's a little silver nut, and you can take that off, and so now you can actually run the silver over that part, and also you can even get into something like that. And if you want to make sure that there's no polish in it, you can just do it like that. There's not much that we do with this, because this is normally ebony or something like that, so it's a very, very hard wood. But be careful when you screw them back on, because when you screw them back on, they will actually break if you screwed them too hard. So always just screw them so that they're just about tight, and no more. Okay. Now, as you can see, there's plate worn off of there. Really and truly, people should get them replated. When you're cleaning silver, the other thing to do is to look for silver marks. This is just plate, and I think that's plate. I don't think we've actually got anything here. But what you would be doing is always protect that. Don't go rubbing over it with your fingers, because what you're actually doing, you'll start wearing it off, And eventually, when people want to either value it or do an inventory and say, oh, this is so and so and it was made in 1760, you won't be able to see it because the butlers through the years have just worn off the silver marks by cleaning it. So it's always a good idea, well, particularly what I do, I often hold my finger over it when I'm cleaning around it so that it just covers it. But if you really wanted to be careful, you could put a piece of sellotape or something over it. Okay, so just do this sort of little item because I think that's quite important just to clean this one. When you put the polish on, when you're rubbing it on, you're actually rubbing it off at the same time. But as you can see with my fingers, I've actually got enough on there to clean that right the way around. I mean, none of our silver is that dirty because we have students here all the time and the students keep it clean for us, and because they have so many lessons and that. Now, if the polish has got in these crevices here, you know, because there's quite a lot of ornate work there, just get the brush and go around to make sure that all the polish is out, because when it dries, it will dry white. And I have been to houses where I've seen the silver on the table and I can see all the white in it, and it's purely that people haven't bothered to brush it out. They probably don't know really what to do, but that's what you need to do. I'm not sure this is not the, you know, it's just a piece of ordinary plated silver, but it's a good idea if there's anything attached to it. It's actually a sugar bowl, that's what it would be used for, something like that. It could be used for keeping brown sugar in on a breakfast table or something like that. The other thing is always make sure that the inside parts of silver are clean. Don't go into this area, not unless it's actually shining. But as that's just dull, I would leave that like that. But make sure that this is good. Brush it out once again. Make sure that the hinge is clean. And that's really it. And that would be good enough. And then you can just get the cloth at the very end and just wipe it round, just to make sure that there's nothing on it. And when you're handling silver, you need to always wear either a pair of gloves, if you're going to put it from there onto a table or something, because your fingers have always got grease on them, because you know your body's got oil there, and so it's always greasy. So it's no good doing like that because you'll have fingerprints over everything. And I've just pulled these things out, but I mean, to be honest, that would need no more than just a rub round with a cloth. But if you're going to use it, you need to hold it with a cloth, or you know, I mean, when we handle most of our equipment when we're laying a table, we'd always use a cloth or a pair of white gloves or something like that just to hold it with. But it's only just to keep the finger marks. We don't ever wear white gloves, not generally. In all the years that I've worked, I've never wore a pair of white gloves.